Okay, today we're going to be talking about different ways to inner tubes versus tubeless system, and also mousse nitrogen inserts. Like you to click the subscribe button and the like button. It really helps out my channel. And I know I talked about this a while back, and I said I'd go into some more detail. So today's that day. So we're going to cover each one of these and talk about the benefits and the drawbacks on each one. And each one does have a drawback and has its own benefits. So we'll get into that and go from there. All right. So we're all pretty familiar with the old trusty inner tube. The benefits of running a tube are that they're pretty easy to change out on the trail if you run into an issue. Nobody really likes to tear down a tire out on the trail. Even in your garage, it's not fun to do, but it's a doable thing. So you can repair these, and a lot of people, if you're an adventure rider, you'll carry an extra tube with you. You can run just a 21-inch tube, bring it with you, and that'll work for the front or the rear, which is nice in a pinch, so that you can run either one of these in the front or rear. So that makes the tube kind of handy if you're doing the 21-inch. And you could put slime or whatever tire sealant you like to run. You can run that in these, and it'll fix minor holes that you might get from cactus or whatever. If you pick up a nail, you're probably done. That's the biggest drawback of these, is that once it gets a relatively decent sized hole in it, you're gonna have to fix it, And if you're riding in just the dirt, a lot of times you can limp back to camp. But if you have to travel some distance, whether it's on the dirt or the street, particularly the street, you're risking overheating your tire and some rim damage as well. So what I did is I went to this Tubeless System. It's Tubeless System, and it has some real benefits and it has some drawbacks on it. So the way this one works is it has this, it's almost like a bicycle tube, real small, and then it goes in this case. And so it goes in this case, and then you inflate this tube to 110 psi, and then this presses out against your tire inside the wheel, and that basically essentially acts like a rim lock all the way around the whole bike. You still have a smaller rim lock. I don't know how much this really does, but you don't really need it, because this is going to lock it in place. Your tire's not going to slip on that. And when you do that, you eliminate your other rim lock, and now this one right here is a low pressure. So you can take this and you can run 0 to 15 psi in this chamber, which actually goes into the tire. And I'm going to show you how that works here shortly. But the benefit of doing this system is that you can run 0 to 10 psi. It's not going to come off the bead. I've ridden it with 0. It feels awkward because it feels like you're on a flat tire, but it does have a lot of traction. And the benefit is if you pick up a nail or anything like that, you can put slime inside your tire, and that'll fix most of them. And if it doesn't, then you can just put a plug in it, and 10 minutes later you're back riding again. And I've done that on my bike. I picked up a nail, and I was excited to actually get to try it, because that was my whole point. I hate changing flats, especially out on the trail. But so it made it a lot easier, and all I did is get a plug kit and put a plug in it and air it up, and I was good to go. So I really did like it. The drawbacks is that, so they say this system on the high pressure side loses a pound of air a day. Now once you air this up, I air mine up to 115. Even at 100 psi, you're still safe to ride. I have not had that experience of pressure loss. The problem that you do have is even just checking this, because the tube is so small, you lose pressure just checking it. So I just tend to air it up every time before I go for a ride. So that becomes kind of a hassle, especially if you're on a venture ride, because obviously you don't have to break out your air compressor and pump things up again. But I've gone for 3 days and without putting air in it, and it's fine. The other issue that I've run in with this is, or I wouldn't say issue, it's just different. When you're mounting this, forget everything you know about mounting tires on a bike, because this is way different. Follow the instructions and it's pretty easy. Originally, when I was changing tires on this, I thought, oh, there's no way I'm going to be able to hit this tube with a spoon. Yeah, you can hit it with a spoon. And I did, and I tore it. The thing is that this little tube is only like 18 bucks. So it's cheap. The problem is that no one seems to stock just that, and you'll have to order it. They stock the kit, which is over 100 bucks, you know, like 115, 120 bucks. But that's kind of a bummer to buy the whole kit if all you need is an $18 tube. So now I have an extra one for the rear. The front one, I've never had any issues. I've never had a single issue with the front. And yeah, just on my last ride, I had a failure, and I think the failure was me. The bike been sitting for a while, and I didn't think to check the pressure, and I actually ended up tearing the stem on the tube. And the problem is, once that happens, you're done. So if you are adventure riding or going out way out in the distance, you could carry another tube and you could run just a tube. The problem is that when you eliminate your rim lock, as far as your stock one, you eliminate that and you have to run this. So now you have no rim lock, but you know, if you ran that thing up to 30 psi, and you're careful, it's not going to slip anyway. But if you really needed to, you just carry a rim lock with you in a tube. Like I said, there's drawbacks. So, but I will show you more on this here in a bit. Then we have the Mousse Nitro Insert. This, I've never run these before. I'm curious. You can get them in what they call different PSI ratings. You know, so how soft or how dense the foam is. I've never mounted one before. It doesn't look like fun. It looks like you're trying to put a tire inside of a tire. And I don't know, but this is a guarantee. You cannot get a flat with these. It's impossible to get a flat with this. Drawbacks are that it's going to be a real difficult thing to mount. And you get this lube that goes with it. It's a special lube. And the thing is that as your tire is flexing and moving, it's creating friction, and friction's heat, and that's what makes these break down. So you have to lube these things up, and so they're not street legal. And by the way, neither is a tubeless system. It's not intended to be ridden on the road. I haven't had an issue with it. Not a problem at all. I do know a few guys that are running these Mousse inserts on the road, and the one guy does Baja tours and stuff like that, and he's probably pretty good at changing tires, and he says he doesn't have any problems with it. Lyndon Poskett, Races to Places on YouTube, he runs a Mousse up front on his bike. He does not run one in the back because he carries all kinds of luggage and stuff, and it's just too much weight. It would destroy it. It would overheat and destroy it. But he runs one up front, and he's on his third tire, and hasn't had a problem with it. So it definitely does work. The problem is that you need to lubricate this. You have a choice of either tearing this thing down and then lubing it again. I have no idea how often you'd have to do that. I have seen other guys that what they do is they take an old tube and cut the stem out and put it in there, because obviously you don't need a place to inflate your tire. And what they do is they pump slime in there. Obviously you don't need it for puncture proof, but it lubricates this and keeps everything loose so it doesn't overheat. I'm tempted to try one up front. They're just expensive. And I'm fine with it being expensive if I don't destroy it, but I'm not fine if it's expensive and I do destroy it. That's going to be upsetting. so I don't know. And if I did do it, it would only be up front. I wouldn't run one in the back. On my bike, 90% of the time, I think I'd be fine. I'm a little fat, 195 plus the camping gear. I've never weighed it. I need to do that. But I'm guessing it's somewhere around 35 pounds of gear. So I don't know how a mousse insert would hold up in the back of the bike. But typically you're getting pinched flats on the front. You don't really get them in the rear that often. Most of that stuff you tend to avoid. So I think throwing a mousse up front, it would last a really long time if you could keep it lubricated. And like I said, I don't know, but Lyndon Poskett went through 3 tires, or was actually on his 3rd tire, and still running the same mousse. And if you check out his channel, that guy rides and rides and rides. You know, races to places, basically riding around the whole world pretty much. But it's not better than my channel. But anyway, so like I said, the mousse insert has its advantages, and I might try it one day. But North County Yamaha in San Marcos, California was kind enough to loan me these items. I'm not affiliated with them. I'm not getting paid by them, but they were nice enough to loan me these. Kendall's the parts manager over there, and real nice guy. You won't find a nicer guy to bend over backwards to help you out. Leon works at the counter in the parts department, and he's at the track at least once a week. So if you're a track guy, he's somebody you want to talk to. They're all pretty knowledgeable about bikes over there. So I don't know much about their service department, but I've only used their service department once. But when I dropped off my bike, they called me back the same day to let me know what the problem was with it. So to me, that's kind of impressive that they get back to you that quick. So not affiliated, don't get paid by them, but it's a good place to get information and get your parts. So anyway, I'm going to show you a little bit more about the tubeless system, because that's what I'm running. I'm always on the fence what I'm going to do, if I'm going to stick with it or if I'm going to stop using it, because it is kind of a hassle to make sure you air it up before your rides. I did one time get a small leak on the bead of the tire. No matter what I did, it was the actual tire that was the issue. No matter where I moved it, the leak would follow it. So it was the tire. I don't think that happens often. I'm sure there's ways to fix it. But it was so small, it was like every 3 days I'd have to put air in it. So I wasn't really too concerned about it. But you also have to keep in mind that these are tube tires. They're not designed to run with air in them. They're designed to have a tube in them. So if you had an issue like that, I don't think you could take it back to your dealer and tell them, hey, it's leaking around the bead. I think you're just going to have to figure it out and fix it yourself. But I guess that depends on your relationship with your dealer. So, but I got something I set up that I wanted to show you how the tubeless system works, because a lot of people find it very confusing as to how it works. But it is pretty cool because, like I said, you can run 0 to 15 psi. When I have all the luggage and stuff on the bike, I run 20, and I haven't had a problem. I haven't had a problem at all with it. So I don't know. Typically, you know, like I said, it's intended for off-road use, and 15's a good pressure to be running at that. I mean, if you're going to be in a lot of rocks or risking some high speed stuff, you might want to bump it up to 20. But overall, 15 is probably going to be where you're going to be at. 10 to 15. So that's kind of how they designed the system. But anyway, so this is the mousse, and yeah, I think it's worth trying. I might do it, but if I do it, I'm going to put the valve stem in so that I can lubricate it. I just think that's a good way to monitor it and keep an eye on it, because all that friction just eats this thing up, and I think that's where the problem lies. I just wonder about balancing this, if that's an issue. It seems pretty evenly dispersed weight on it, but I don't know. Once you throw it on a balancer, it may not. So, and I don't know for sure if you use a rim lock with these. I guess you would have to. Yeah, I think you'd have to use a rim lock with these, because you don't want that tire slipping, especially since this is lubed up. So yeah, I'm pretty sure you still use a rim lock with these. Like I said, I've never used them before, so fortunately I'm not a whole lot of help on that one. Okay, so I know the lighting's not perfect here, but so this is the tubeless system. Remember, it's tubeless, not tubeless. So this is your high pressure chamber. So there's a tube in here that's about the size of a bicycle tire tube. And then it's got this, I'm not sure what this is made of. It's some kind of neoprene, polyurethane. It's kind of soft and flexible, but it's still stiff. I mean, it's kind of hard. So when you inflate this, it goes up against the bead and it locks it from the inside. Then where your rim lock would normally be, you have another chamber here, and you can air this chamber up separately. So when you air this up, it goes up to 110 psi. So that's it aired up. You can see it locks it in on the sides, so the air can't get out. And so you have to tape the rim to protect the tube from the spokes. You're not really taping it up to keep the air from getting out exactly, but mostly to protect the spokes, because there shouldn't be any air on that side. Once this goes up against the tire, it's locked on, and the only air is going to be in this chamber here. So it's a pretty neat system. I don't know how long it's been around, but it's impressive. Like I said, it has some maintenance, and so basically what happens is, if you put your slime or sealant in there, it goes all the way in here, and it's also good for this because it lubricates this and keeps it from drying out. So it's a good thing for that. It will not prevent this thing from getting a hole in it. I've only seen a couple videos of guys getting holes in this, and one guy had a thorn that was it's a cactus thorn. It was huge. Didn't matter whether you had this or a tube, you were going to be done. So, but yeah, it's a pretty impressive system. Yeah. It's a great idea that actually works. So that's pretty much it. I mean, whatever you choose, that there's going to be some issues, some drawbacks on it. I am really curious how a mousse would work up in the front. Like I said, I know a few people that run them, front and rear. I don't know about the rear. I think it's going to heat up and disintegrate. So if you want, you could try doing the slime in the rear as well, but I don't know how well that's going to work. I think it's you're only getting that in a small amount in a very small area. Eventually it's going to work around, so I think you'd have to do it fairly often, but I don't think that'd be that difficult if you were vigilant about doing it. The tubeless system I've been running for a couple of years, and I've only had one incident that it came apart on me, And like I said, I think that was my fault because I didn't check the high pressure tube for see how much air was in it before I went for the ride. And like I said, that is the drawback of it's a little bit more maintenance. But obviously, if you're running the mousse insert, that's going to be more maintenance too. But the mousse insert, 100%, you cannot get a flat. Impossible. They have them in different densities, hard, soft, medium, whatever. So you can get a feel for it. I really don't know that much about it. One of these days I'll have to mount one up and try it. But and then there's the old tubes, man. They've been around for 100 years. They work. You get a flat, you're going to be tearing your tire apart. And then once you put a new tube or patch it, you'll be back on the road. And well, it depends on how good you are. Sometimes they can put up a fight. So anyway, hope you liked the video. I hope you found it informative. Click the like button and subscribe, and go hit the trails.